Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and, honestly, super relatable experiment about something pretty much all of us deal with every single day. We're talking about handing over the reins of our daily workflow to artificial intelligence. Now, we hear a lot of theory about AI, right? But today, we're looking at a source that details a very bold, real-world experiment. It perfectly captures this massive tug of war going on right now between unprecedented speed on one hand and just fundamental humanity on the other. Let's get right into it. Literally 100%. Our source author didn't just, dip their toes into the waters of AI. They went all in. For a full 7 days, they let ChatGPT handle 100% of their client communication. I want you to really stop and think about what that means for a second. Zero editing, no polite human rewrites to soften the edges, just pure, unadulterated AI-generated responses going straight to actual clients. It is pretty much the ultimate stress test of artificial intelligence in a professional setting. All right, let's jump straight into part one, the 7-day AI experiment and trading time for tech. So the setup here was extreme, and honestly, the initial results, they felt like an absolute miracle. Before AI, the author's average response time to clients was a sluggish 4 hours. With AI, a lightning-fast 45 seconds. The efficiency gain was just undeniable. I mean, imagine having your inbox effectively sitting at zero all week long. The author experienced the absolute pinnacle of the tech dream here: ultimate speed, ultimate productivity, and getting literal hours magically given back to their day. But as you might guess, that honeymoon phase of hyper-productivity was incredibly short-lived. On day one, the magic begins, right? Everything flies out the door perfectly. But right in the middle of the week, we hit day 4. The turning point. The exact moment this entire experiment came to a sudden, crashing halt. This doesn't sound like you. Are you okay? Wow, that is the cold, hard reality of a chilling reply from a concerned client on day 4. The client didn't marvel at the speed, they didn't appreciate the absolutely perfect grammar or the logically structured paragraphs. What they felt was a void. The machine was so perfectly sterile, it literally prompted a wellness check from the person on the other side of the screen. And that jarring moment right there, it forces a massive pivot in how we need to think about this technology. We spend all of our time agonizing over that classic debate, will AI replace us? But this shows that's the wrong question entirely. The real question we need to be asking is, what are we actually trading away for speed? When we optimize perfectly for a 45-second response, what invisible human element is being totally stripped out of our relationships? Which brings us to part 2, the uncomfortable truth. Let's look at the actual limits of artificial genius. Now that the experiment has hit a wall, look, we have to acknowledge what the machine actually does brilliantly. AI is an undeniable genius at synthesis and scale. It can take a massive, dense 50-page report and crunch it down into 3 crisp bullet points in a matter of seconds. It writes complex SQL queries, it drafts marketing copy, it debugs code rapidly. In these specific areas, it operates way faster and often much more accurately than any junior hire ever could. But here's the flip side. AI is utterly, completely terrible at context. It is totally blind to the human nuances that actually drive business and build relationships. It doesn't know your client's dog just died, so it has no idea it needs to soften its tone. It doesn't know a specific stakeholder absolutely hates corporate jargon. And it certainly doesn't know when your team has had a brutal week and desperately needs a pep talk instead of just another sterile project update. And this perfectly illustrates the core divide we're dealing with. AI operates strictly on probability. It is just mathematically calculating the most likely next word in a sequence based on its training data. That is it. Humans, on the other hand, operate on empathy. We respond to the unseen, unspoken emotional currents in a room or even in an email chain, and you just cannot calculate empathy through probability. So let's move to part 3, the human-first advantage and how we actually build the ultimate hybrid workflow. So how exactly do we fix this? Well, our source provides a remarkably clear, actionable 2-step framework that optimally divides the labor here. Step 1, use AI for the draft. Step 2, use a human for the edit. Now, I know it sounds super simple, but the magic is in exactly how you divide these responsibilities. This is where the hybrid workflow really shines. For the AI draft, let the machine do the heavy lifting. Let it build the structure, compile the data, and perfect the grammar, because that's what it is undeniably good at. But for the human edit, that's where you step in. You absolutely must reserve the story, the vulnerability, and that final compelling call to action entirely for yourself. The machine cannot be vulnerable. Only you can do that. It really all boils down to this one highly memorable metaphor from the source text, and I just love this. AI gives you the skeleton, you bring the heartbeat. True efficiency requires both the support and the life. The skeleton keeps the body standing, right? That's the data, the structure, the grammar. But without the empathy and the human context, it's really just cold bones. You have to bring the heartbeat. And that leads us to our final section, part 4, drawing the line. Where do we go from here? Let's connect all of this directly back to your real-world industry. Look, this debate is not black and white. There are arenas where AI is always going to win. In pure data analysis, probability algorithms are the undisputed champions. Let AI win there. But humans remain absolutely irreplaceable in high-stakes fields that require real nuance. Things like negotiation, coaching, crisis management. You simply cannot automate the trust required to navigate a crisis or the intuition you need to coach an underperforming team member. So I want to leave you with a lingering, somewhat provocative question to chew on today. In your specific industry, where do you draw the line between using AI for efficiency and keeping that essential human touch? Think about a time you recently received a message or a proposal that felt just a bit too robotic. Did it build trust with you, or did it break it? As you go back to your own workflow this week, I really challenge you to master your own hybrid approach. Let the machine build the skeleton for sure, but absolutely never forget to bring your heartbeat. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.